What's going on, everyone? By now, most if not all of you are aware that Donovan Mitchell is available for trade, and the frontrunners to acquire Donovan Mitchell are the New York Knicks. The New York Knicks could put together a reasonable package for a Utah Jazz team that looks like they are hitting the reset button and want to rebuild. And the New York Knicks have like 22 draft picks, so they could end up making a pretty sizable package of first and second round picks, players, things like that, to go and acquire Donovan Mitchell. Now, if the Knicks acquire Donovan Mitchell, it is reported that they want to go and acquire Russell Westbrook. Now, I did do a video sort of diving into this, but I want to dive into the Laker aspect of this more because I think that this could be the X factor for the Kyrie Irving trade and everything along those lines. So Russell Westbrook is a player that the Nets don't seem to really want, right? It seems to be the struggle with the Kyrie to the Lakers trade, right? Russell Westbrook, there are teams that would be willing to take on Westbrook's salary, but they want to give up a first. And the Lakers don't want to give up 2 first-round picks. And the Nets reported yesterday, did a video about it, that they would be willing to take multiple second-round picks and a first-round pick for Kyrie Irving. Now, the reason that this is important and the reason that the Knicks could be the key and X factor to this deal getting done is that if the Knicks get Donovan Mitchell, then they want to acquire Russell Westbrook to dump some salary and buy him out. Now, if that ends up happening, then very likely the assets that the Lakers would get in that trade, including a first-round pick, which would make sense, right? And you might be thinking, listening to this video, no way the Knicks give the Lakers a first-round pick for taking on Westbrook, right? But this isn't about Russell Westbrook as the player. They want to take Westbrook to clear his salary because they have guys like Julius Randle, Evan Fournier, Derrick Rose, who are locked into long-term contracts, especially Julius Randle. He's about to start a 4-year deal, and they need to move off of Randle, Fournier, and Derrick Rose. And those 3 actually line up pretty well with Russell Westbrook's contract. So the Knicks, they would be getting a huge favor by the Lakers. The Lakers are essentially clearing the books outside of Donovan Mitchell and Jalen Brunson for the Knicks. And the Knicks have this treasure trove of draft picks, both first and second rounds. So they remove, some from that treasure chest, send them to the Jazz, and then they throw the Lakers another first, or maybe, a first and a second, something like that, to acquire Russell Westbrook and clear salary. Now, it doesn't have to be a Knicks pick. It would likely be, some other least favorable pick. Like, this is the least favorable pick we have left. You can have this one. Give us Westbrook. And then the Lakers would take Derrick Rose, Evan Fournier, Julius Randle. Now, this is where the Lakers would hugely benefit because right off the bat, they would get another first-round pick. So now they have 3 firsts, and they still have all of their seconds. And they have guys in Derrick Rose, Evan Fournier, and Julius Randle, assets that the Nets may want in a Kyrie Irving trade because the Nets are in a very unique and different situation. The Nets are in a position to where they can't tank. Whatever they package or end up trading Kevin Durant for, they need to get assets that keep them relevant, that keep them as a competitive team. Same thing with Kyrie Irving, right? Anything that they do for Kyrie Irving, they would like to get back something that they could use for, future flexibility or some players, stuff like that. And yes, the Nets want the Lakers to take Joe Harris to clear salary, but because they don't really have any other options. The Lakers don't have any players that the Nets would want that would be worth taking on long term. But if you're going to trade Kyrie Irving, if you're the Nets, Derrick Rose would be a very valuable piece in this deal. Julius Randle could be a very valuable piece in this deal. 2 guys that would help the Nets remain competitive, and you're basically getting those pieces for Kyrie Irving and are able to remain competitive. Evan Fournier, if they want all 3, you send all 3. Most likely it'll be something like 2 of these players and the Lakers would take on another one instead of like Joe Harris or something like that. But like Derrick Rose, Julius Randle, and 2 first-round picks, that should get the job done. I mean, what better deal are you going to get? You're getting two guys that help you compete now, that help you win now if you're the Nets, in replace for Kyrie Irving. You're not losing a point guard because now you have Derrick Rose. Not just that, but Julius Randle can play the point forward role. So now you have that, Blake Griffin-esque replacement who's younger, who, if he can get back to being the Julius Randle from 2 years ago, would be a great contract. It's just last year he had just a really rough season, but maybe a new environment, a new place, playing with Kevin Durant, playing with all the guys that they have, that may be hugely beneficial for Randle. So not only do you have a point guard that can replace Kyrie Irving, but you also got that point forward that can initiate the offense as well. Take it from the rebound on the break, finish at the rim, dish it out. He's a great rebounder, all of these things. So the Nets would be getting some real assets. If they want a guy in Evan Fournier, they could take Evan Fournier. Like, let's say they want to move off of Joe Harris and they're willing to take Evan Fournier in that place. Okay, fine. Then you could go that route. Lakers would take Joe Harris. Lakers would take Kyrie. They would get these three guys. And then they'd also get, the first that was sent from the Knicks, as well as one of their first. And then the Lakers still have their other first and all of their second round picks to go get a Buddy Hield, something along those lines, Eric Gordon, whatever, to upgrade the roster, and you end up with what the Lakers ultimately want to do. The Knicks would be the absolute X factor in this trade because, again, the Nets need to remain relevant. They need players that can help them win now. And the beauty of Julius Randle on the Nets, as opposed to a team like the Lakers or various other teams, the Nets don't have cap space. So if they get rid of Kyrie Irving and they just let him go, they don't have money to sign somebody new, right? So they have to take back players. Julius Randle is on a 4-year deal, just like Kevin Durant, just like a lot of their big-time contracts. So if it works, great. Now you're a competitor. Now you're trying to fight for a championship. If it doesn't, all of the money on your books all fall off at the same time. And now the Nets essentially have a completely clean slate in 4 years. Or if, they are great, but then start to decline, whatever. You would essentially get clean books once Kevin Durant, Julius Randle, Ben Simmons, everyone's contracts are essentially all off the books at the same time. So this would be hugely beneficial from just a future salary aspect, getting assets, all of those things. And you remain competitive now. You get a guy in Derrick Rose who is a point guard that could really help, be really beneficial. Julius Randle, like I said, is the point forward. And Evan Fournier, if you want him, no, okay, fine. The Lakers can keep him. And they got that shooter that they desperately need. I just think that this would be the best possible outcome for the Lakers to get Kyrie Irving. Now, a domino has to fall in Donovan Mitchell. Now, the Knicks don't want to do this deal and trade for Russell Westbrook based on reports unless they get Donovan Mitchell. Now, maybe they still would. If they could move off of Julius Randle, Evan Fournier, and Derrick Rose's long-term contracts, I don't see them not doing it. But they may look at it as if we don't get Donovan Mitchell and we move off of those guys, we're essentially a tanking team this year because it's basically Jalen Brunson and RJ Barrett, and that's it. You'd still have Mitchell, a few other guys, but for the most part, you're just running with all your young guys. You're probably not even a playoff team. You're probably punting the season, where their hope is okay, well, Julius Randle, maybe he could be good, Evan Fournier, Derrick Rose, if they could kind of be the guys we know, maybe we could fight for a playoff spot now that we have Jalen Brunson. That's kind of their thinking. But if they end up getting Donovan Mitchell being the first piece that falls could lead the Lakers to getting Kyrie Irving because, like I said, you would get a treasure trove of assets. And the Knicks would have to give up a first-round pick. There's no way the Lakers would do that trade without a first-round pick because you're clearing the books off of the Knicks entirely. The Knicks would essentially have Donovan Mitchell, Jalen Brunson, and that is it. But they have to re-sign RJ Barrett. They need to extend him. They don't have the money. They could extend him regardless, but the salary cap would be insane. And James Dolan isn't going to do they need to clear the books off. So you are hugely benefiting if you're the Knicks by taking on Russell Westbrook, waiving him or buying him out and then letting him move on, and you got a clean slate after this year. You still have Donovan Mitchell, you still have Jalen Brunson, still have Mitchell, you have Grimes, you have, all your guys, Quickie, all of them. You're good. You're in a good spot if you're the Knicks still, and you'll have that salary relief after this season to go, re-sign RJ Barrett, maybe go get another guy, all of that stuff. Other than being locked in to all these players for the next 4 years, you're never going to be able to upgrade your team. Whatever the team is right now, like if they get Donovan Mitchell, your team for like the next 4 years is Donovan Mitchell, Jalen Brunson, RJ Barrett, Julius Randle, and Mitchell. Like that's not a championship team. That's not that. I mean, maybe they're a playoff team, but they're terrible defensively. You have too many guys that need the ball. Like it could very well be a total disaster that I'm sure that they're not willing to risk, and they want to move off. And then that just gives the Lakers more assets and leverage to go get Kyrie Irving. Now, regardless, if the Lakers were ever going to do this trade, they're not going to keep Julius Randle. Maybe they keep Derrick Rose. Maybe they keep Evan Fournier. Julius Randle makes no sense for the Lakers. So if this deal gets announced, I am almost positive that Julius Randle ends up elsewhere, right? I think Julius Randle ends up getting rerouted to another team somehow, some way. And I think the team that would make sense for him at this point would be the Nets, because you're going to lose Kyrie Irving for nothing, and you can't let Kyrie walk. I know I've had a lot of people in the comment section say, I'd rather lose him for nothing than trade him to the Lakers. It's silly, because if you lose him, you can't replace him. Like, if you could just let Kyrie Irving walk and you had $36 million in cap space, fine, cool, perfect. But that's not the reality here. If they let him go, they can't sign another max guy. So they need to do some sort of trade to alleviate that space. And the beauty of Westbrook is that he has a larger contract than Kyrie Irving. That's why they'd move off of Joe Harris and stuff, because they want to get Joe Harris's money off the books, so that way they actually have cap space to go get another guy. They would have like $18-20 million to go get another mid-tier guy. Maybe a little more, depending on how much the cap goes up, guys they release, stuff like that. But for the most part, they'd have about $20 million. If you lose Kyrie, you only have about $10 million, I think that they would have, something along those lines. That's not enough to go replace Kyrie Irving. You could get a role player, but you're not getting Kyrie. Kyrie replacement, I should say. But Derrick Rose, Julius Randle could be that Kyrie replacement. And now you're off to the races and you're running. Lakers get their guy in Kyrie Irving. It's a win-win for all sides. Everyone's happy. The Knicks get their salary relief. The Nets get their guys and some assets. The Lakers get their guy in Kyrie Irving. But as always, this is a discussion, so I want to hear from you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. What do you think? Do you love this? Do you hate it? How do you feel about it? I'm sure many of you, because I know a lot of you are subscribed, watch this channel. You've heard me talk about this briefly, kind of in passing in various videos. Like I said, I did a video on the Knicks and Russell Westbrook, stuff like that. But I really wanted to dive in deeper into this point. So I appreciate you sticking around, and let me know your thoughts and opinions again on this whole thing down in the comment section below. Do you love this trade? Do you hate this trade? Do you think it's fair for everybody? Do you think it's only fair for one team? How would you feel about it regardless? Like I said, the Knicks would have to give up a first, because the team that benefits the most in this trade is the Knicks, because they clear off their books. Everyone else, yes. You can make an argument, I guess the Lakers would too, because they get their guy in Kyrie Irving, but who knows what could develop for the Knicks if they have free books. It's basically hitting the reset button on the franchise. That's beautiful. So the Knicks hugely benefit. It's the same logic as the Lakers trading Westbrook to a team that's absorbing him. Lakers have to give up a first-round pick because they don't want Westbrook for any other reason than, we'll waive him, but you need to get rid of him. Well, in this case, it would be a mutually beneficial thing, but the Knicks are the ones that need it more, because the Knicks need to clear the cap space. So I hope that kind of clarifies that part and helps understand why the Knicks would give up a first-round pick in that deal. Worst case, they'd probably give up a couple seconds, which if the Nets really want more second rounds, well, then there you go. You get 2 seconds instead of, a first. Well, now you could essentially give the Nets like 5 second-round picks if you wanted to, and you're good. But anyway, love to hear your thoughts and opinions down. One last little shameless plug is I did start As It Stands Lakers. It is a channel just like this, dedicated to only the Lakers, because the Lakers are my favorite team. And on this channel, as it stands, I talk about all teams, all sports, stuff like that. We have football season coming up, so I'm definitely looking forward to that as well. And I just wanted to make a dedicated channel to the Lakers to give the ins and outs. Now, all the big stuff, all the big news and stuff, I will still post here on this channel. But if you want all the ins and outs and just rumors and theories and just discussions just strictly on the Lakers, link down in the description or in the comment section. Go check out the channel, subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate it. That being said, hit that like button. Helps me out a lot. Lets me know you enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button, followed by the bell notification. Stay up to date with all things sports. Join this wonderful community and all of our discussions. I'll see you all in the next one. Thank you.